Hello and good evening. Welcome to my weekly preview or weekly outlook on the two assets that I trade, US100 and US500. That is the Nasdaq and S&P 500. So as usual, I start on the weekly chart that is on Monday or on Sunday. I usually go and just check what the weekly candle printed. So as you can see, let me just delete this first. So I just start with a clear chart to reduce the noise. Then we'll do it together. Okay, so you can see that last week was a bullish week. It was a bullish week for those who traded with me during throughout the week. It was a bullish week, but then we lost. The two pairs were not in sync from Wednesday up to Friday. The two assets were not in sync, so we only traded on Tuesday, which was a very good trade. I posted the trade recap on this channel. You can check it out. But let us observe what the weekly candles did, right? So on US100, we can notice that last week printed a bullish candle, but it had a small body with long wicks on both sides. While on US500, it posted a bigger, relatively bigger candle, bullish candle with longer wicks, with relatively shorter wicks, all right? So in relation to the first week of August, price traded above and closed on both assets, okay? But then we do not just look at the previous week's candle. We also tend to look at old highs, such as this high that had formed on the last week of July. Okay, so in relation to that high, we can see that we have a major difference that should not be overlooked as we get into this week. So just label that high and we come back on the SP 500. You will notice that price on US 500 was able to trade above that high and close above it, okay? But then when you come to Nasdaq, you will notice that price traded above that high, but then it came back and closed below, right? So in relation to that, it could be a signal for a reversal, but we do not have the confirmation for the reversal, right? So I would want to remain bullish throughout the week and throughout the month because the dollar is still strong and the dollar is still strong. But then we have that cue that we should not overlook. So after that, we have already seen such highs. So I will mark the previous weekly high and the previous weekly lows, which are important points. Okay, that is my previous weekly high and my previous week low right here. Okay, so if price were to reverse, what do I want to see? And if price was to continue with the bullish move, what do I want to see? So let's go to the lower time frames and I'll explain that. Okay, go down to the daily chart. All right, as I have said before, Monday is one of my most important days, non-trading days. Okay, I do not trade on Mondays. What I do is observe what the markets want to do throughout the week, because that is the day that you will get a clue or you will get a hint of what the markets want to do throughout that week. If you have been watching the weekly previews and my trade recaps, you have noticed that Monday gives us a lot of information about where the markets want to go and what we want to see throughout the week. So let's go down to the daily time frame. Okay, if I want to, if this was a hint, if the fact that on US 100 we did not close above that high, if it was a hint for a reversal, what I want to see on the daily chart is price close below this order block. right? This is the last candle. This is the last up close candle that swept that high. All right. So if we were to reverse, I want to see price close below this candle, this last up close candle. I think I will label it as the last down up close candle. Don't know if I have a template for that. I do not. So okay, this is my last up close candle, and it will carry the information that it carries a lot of importance when it comes to what I want to see happen this week. Okay, last up close candle. I'm sorry about that. Just last up close candle. But then, if I am to remain bullish throughout the week, what do I want to see? I want to see price respect. I want to see price respect the 50% level of which candle, of the previous day candle, which was Friday's candle. So today, being a Monday, what I want to observe is how Monday will close in relation to Friday's trading. Okay, this is Friday's candle. As we can see, I do not want to speak much about that because Monday is not done yet, because we could reverse and come back higher. But if you observe closely, you will notice that price has already traded below 50% of this candle, even without measuring. You can just see, but let us measure. You will notice that price has not traded anywhere above 50% of that candle. What does that tell us? In addition to the fact that we have seen a hint for a reversal on the weekly time frame, we can also see it again on the daily time frame, because price just opened today on a Monday and it traded straight away lower. We have a fair value gap right here. We have a daily fair value gap on US 500. That is a daily fair value gap. Okay, just label it that one. That is a daily fair value gap. Okay, and then on Nasdaq, the same daily fair value gap has been completely filled. Last time I mentioned that sometimes we have what we call SMT divergence. So this is also an example of SMT divergence, because on one asset, on US 100, we have filled the fair value gap, while on the S&P we have not filled the fair value gap. All right, and remember, this one, the US 100 is the one that is showing us more of bearish characteristics, because remember when we marked the weekly high that was closed below on Nasdaq, and then on US 500, which is more bullish, it did not close inside that level. So when we go down to the lower time frames, we also notice that it has also respected its fair value gap, while US 100 has filled its own fair value gap. So I can see both sides of the market. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back to the daily chart. So this week is a bit confusing. So what I normally do on such weeks is that I tend to remain open. I'm not married to any bias, so let me just draw the gun box. You will also notice that on US 100, we only wicked inside the 0.5, above 0.5, but then we displaced lower. Okay, so I want to see what Monday will do. So when I come back tomorrow, I will check and see what it did in respect to this Friday's candle. If price closes back inside Friday's candle, as much as we have traded below the 50%. If price closes inside this range, I will sit on my hands and wait for a more clear bias. But if we close below this range, it could confirm my bearish bias. So this is one of the weeks that I will most likely not be trading, because if the two assets are not in sync, I tend to sit on my hands, and I like to sit on my hands, and there is no problem with that. You do not have to trade every day. You do not have to trade every week. Okay. So let us look at the fundamental analysis, or let us look at the news drivers that will be on this week. Okay. So tomorrow on Tuesday, August 19th, we have no news. We have no medium or high impact news. And then we go over to Wednesday, August 20th. So we have FOMC meeting minutes, which are usually at 9 p.m. that is East African time. And I normally don't trade during the FOMC meeting minutes. On such days I trade early in the morning, that is the New York AM session, and I close all my trades by 12 noon New York time. So on that day I will only be taking trades during the morning session, and that is if I get more information from the charts, my technical analysis, because as I have told you, the technicals are not looking really great, but we'll see after Monday's close. Maybe we'll have more insight. And then we'll go over to Thursday, August 21st. We have unemployment claims at 3:30. That is a high impact. Then we have 4:45 p.m. We have the flash manufacturing and flash services. And then at 5 p.m. we also have some home sales, which are medium impact news. So basically on that day, I would like only to trade after 5 p.m., which is 10 a.m. in New York time. And then we'll go over to Friday. Friday we have Fed Chair Powell speaking. He's speaking at 10. And then we also have this Jackson Hole Symposium or whatever. I don't know what that is, but it's a high impact news. We really do not need to know the deeper side of this news. What you need to know is when they are happening, and you also need to notice if it will cause the manipulation or it will push your markets to your targets. Right. So on Friday, the only time I think I would trade is after the 5 p.m. news. But from that view, we can see that tomorrow we do not have any news, and from the way it's looking, price might consolidate throughout tomorrow, and then maybe we'll get a move from Wednesday. But I need to see more from this price action before I become bullish or bearish, because it still hasn't given me enough, but it's still early in the week, so no rush, no worries. Okay, so yeah, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next video. Subscribe, like, and share my videos.